Okay, so here we go. Hello all, good morning or good evening. Thank you for joining the webinar. I welcome all of you to this webinar series on getting started with SharePoint Framework. Uh, so this is the agenda for our entire webinar series. And today we have a session on getting started with PnP by Harsha Vardhini. And this is not the end of it. After a tremendous response for the Getting Started webinar series, next up is the deep dive into SPFx, wherein we will cover more of advanced topics for SharePoint framework. So before I hand over to Harsha for today's webinar, a few of the housekeeping things. That today's webinar is being recorded and we will share the recording link with you after the event is complete. And we welcome all of you to revisit the content and share it with the colleagues. Also, if you have any comments or questions, please use the chat window and we will present it to the speaker at the end of the presentation. So with that, I am going to hand over the floor to Harsha, who is ready to start today's presentation. So Harsha, it's all yours. Please take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Nandadeep. Yeah, good evening, everyone. So today's webinar is about getting started with PnP.js, not only PnP.js as well as the PnP reusable components. So today I'll be giving like getting started level, not into the deep level. So little bit about myself. I'm a senior SharePoint developer in Split Vision organization. And you can connect me in Twitter using the @HarshaGracie Twitter link, and that is my LinkedIn link. So let's get started. So this is the agenda for today. So these three are the topics we're gonna see. The first one is PnP.js. So with the PnP.js, we're gonna see how we can use it in SharePoint framework, and the other two reusable controls also we're gonna see today. Yeah. So before actually I dive into PnP.js, I just wanted to give few points about it, why the PnP.js came. So the history is this, that for CSUM we had a helper library for PnP. So the same way they wanted to give something for the client-side community. So that's why they came up with the PnP.js library, which can work even with SharePoint framework. And it is lightweight and easy to use. So that was the background why PnP.js came in the year 2016. And you can use PnP.js in traditional script editor web part also, giving the reference of PnP.js, and you can use it in Node.js project as well. So PnP.js is a fluent API because it is very easy to use. So even if someone who doesn't know the SharePoint structure, like under the web, list comes, libraries, those things, even if some person doesn't know what is the hierarchy of the things, when they start using coding, it will automatically suggest you. The intelligence suggests you what is the next object. So when you start typing sp dot, so it will automatically suggest you the next one is the web. So inside the web, what are the methods available? So if you are saying get by list dot items, so whether you have get or add or what methods are available, that will automatically be suggested by the intelligence. So it is a very fluent API to use, and it is a robust REST-based library providing a fluent API. So if you know REST API, how to get data using the REST API, then you can obviously work with PnP.js without any hurdles. And PnP.js has the monthly release, and it always has the docs up to date, and even the samples are up to date in the docs. So even if you are listening to this video in the future, I would say you prefer the docs more than the examples that I'm going to show in the slides, because that can be subjected to change. There was a change from V1 version to V2, so that came recently. So in this example, we will see with the V2 example. Yeah. So apart from that, PnP.js also provides batch operations. That is actually easy to use, not like the jQuery example, which we have to rely on the promise and then wait for a long time and look for the failure and all of those things. This is actually very easy to use, and this works in on-premise and Node.js application also. So if you are working in on-premise like SharePoint 2013 or 2016, you can actually start with PnP.js even with the script editor web part. So in the future, if you are migrating to SPFx, then it is easy to convert your code to SPFx using this. Yeah. So it also works with add-in. So outside SharePoint also you can use this library, and it works with classic and modern also. And it is easy to use, like the import statement will be like import sp from pnp/sp. That's all we need to do for importing. So installing is also easy. So this is actually easy to use. Yeah. So these are the packages that are present in add PnP. So let's check each one. So the first one is the common. So common is like it has the set of utilities and reusable methods like get GUID. The next one is config store. So config store, this is how I understood, like we use local storage.get and set. The same way config store also uses the key value pair to access the configurations. So this is just like something like the local storage, but it's not local storage. Yeah. The next one is the graph. With the graph, I'm not gonna cover it in today's session because there is one more session planned for the coming Wednesday. So in the graph, actually it uses add pnp/graph. So with a graph, you can communicate with the application that are present in Office 365, like Outlook, Planner, or anything in the Office 365, which is working with the graph REST service. So using that, you can access those other applications also. Let's say if you're using users, you will say graph.users. If you're accessing groups, you will say graph.users. So that's how we use the graph packages. And logging is a lightweight subscribables, and it is something equivalent to console.log, console.error. So it is equivalent to that one, but this is just for the logging purpose. The next one is the Node.js. So this is especially if you are building a Node.js application, like a standalone application. So there it is highly used because you are not going to host this inside SharePoint. So to access the client, you need the SPFetch client using the client ID secret or something. So in that case, we will be going with the Node.js library to use the SPFetch client. And yeah, we can even use the bearer token to get the token to access anything. So the next one is the OData one. So the OData one is nothing but to process the OData request. So you can even build your own OData request library also. And some of the example you can say that in OData we have caching. So in the example we're gonna see, we say sp.web.list get by title of the particular list dot caching, you can say using caching. So when you say caching, it's like from the caching you're going to use the next request, because the data is not going to change frequently. Like if you are not using something dynamically, then you can go with the caching way. The next one is the ADLJS client. So this is basically to get the client of the ADLJS when you're working with the ADLJS. SP, I'm skipping that because that's the one we're gonna see today in detail. The last one is SP add-in helpers. So if you're working with cross domain, then this is used to uh, execute your client using the SP request executor client. So you can request the client and you can get the web of the particular client you are working. So these are the some of the packages which are provided by PnP community. Before diving into that, I just wanted to add few points and refresh the memory how we used to use in the olden days using the script editor web part. So this is an example to get item. So in the get item, this is the jQuery Ajax example. In the URL you are passing, which URL you're gonna hit. That is the hyphen slash underscore API slash web slash list get by title of the particular list, and the method is get. And you pass the headers accept and content type also, and then in the success, if you have success, the data will come. Error means error data will come. This is an example of the get item. So if I move to the next one, create item is same. Only thing is you are passing the data with the particular header one, header type. This is what I mentioned in the previous slides also, that you need to pass underscore underscore metadata types equal to SP list. These things needs to be passed because you are creating a new item. And in the headers, XHTTP method is merge. So this is also important, and you need to pass the request digest and all those things. And the next one is delete. For delete, the XHTTP method is going to be delete. And which item you're going to delete, that you are passing it. And the last one is update. For the update also, again you need to pass everything. The only the HTTP method is going to be merged, and the REST API URL you're going to pass. So this is how we used to get the data from the REST API in our jQuery components, correct? So we need to pass the header files, and we need to pass the data in a particular format. Like even in this example, if you see, we used underscore underscore metadata, and then type we passed, and then we are passing the rest of the fields which we are going to update. So that is how we used to do this. But that is the advantage. If you see, the @PnP community had done that. You don't have to pass all this. Whatever is required to be added, it will be automatically handled by the package itself. So if you're adding a new item to SharePoint, yeah, so this is a get example. I'll go to the previous slide after this. So in the get example, if you see, we are saying sp.web.list.getByTitle.items.get. So here I'm not passing any header file, and we are not passing the request digest, and all those things are taken care by the package itself. So when the request goes, whatever is required, those things are handled by them. That's why I mentioned that this is very easy to use and very fluent to use. There is no confusion at all. So getting back here, this image I just put so that everyone remembers this is the structure we used to use. So these are the parameters we used to pass in the REST API query, like select, order by, top, skip, filter, expand. Expand in the case of like if you are expanding a lookup column, then you pass that variable in the expand, and in select you will say what is been selected from the expanded column. So that's how we used to do. So this is the structure we were using. Just remember, this is the same thing we're gonna use it in the SPPNP also, because the structure of the REST API remains the same here also. So this example, the first one I already explained. So if you see in the REST API, we say /_API /web and then /list /get by title of the particular item, list name, and then /items, and then you say question mark, and then going forward you say $select, $expand, $filter, those things you put. But before that, till items, it is the same structure. If you see, there is no change. Instead of slash, you think it like it's a dot. SP dot, we are using it, and then in the last we are saying dot get, because here I'm getting data from the list, so I'm saying dot get. So there are other methods also which we will be seeing. So in the second example, if you see, sp.web.list get by title of the list name items. So till items I have, Now I'm telling, okay, I have all the items in that the particular item get by ID. So the same method is available in the REST API. So here I'm fetching only the particular item. Okay, so the number here I'm passing the number as 1. And the third example is the same as the first one with extra filters I'm passing. So like I'm selecting only the title and description and dot top of 5. So instead of fetching every item, I'm using the top variable to fetch 5. If in case you didn't mention the top variable, it limits to 100. So this is the, like, if you know the SharePoint REST API, you know how this also works because it's the same thing. And we use order by modified is the list, and we are modifying by ascending. So we pass the true dot get. So the data will be fetched in the selection operators we used here. Based on that, the data will be returned. So this is the this is how we get the item from add PnP / SP for the SharePoint list. So the next one is add item. Okay, so now you have seen the get. So in the get, you already know in the web, my list is present. In the list, the particular list I'm going to search, that is my list that has multiple items dot. Okay, it already has multiple. In that, I'm gonna add my item. So that's why we saying dot add. The previous one we saw dot get, and here we saw only the dot add. Instead of get, we are adding dot add, and dot add requires the parameter that we are posting. So here in the REST API, if you've seen, yeah. So even if you here in the REST API, we are passing the data JSON.stringify. We are stringifying the data and then we are passing it. And here we pass the metadata and title and all. But here if you see, we don't need to do that. What is your data? Pass that alone. So the first one is the title. So the title is the column, internal column name, and the string value is the value. So it is just a JSON object that we are passing. In the dot, then we are getting the result, and the result, this is the response from the server. So I am taking it in a variable called IAR. So this contains the response from the server. So in case of add, you are adding a new item. So in the IAR, you get data, items, and all those objects. So if you access these objects, you get your item ID that is being added also. So if in case you are having multiple items in your SharePoint framework, so this is a new item that is being added, then you already got your item ID for which it is added. So you can directly push this item ID to your array which you already have, like an items array or something. If you have maintained, you can push it. So the second example I have kept it here is sp.web.list. Instead of get by title, I'm saying get by ID. So here if you see, I'm passing the GUID of the list. So this is in case, let's say that your client is someone who is going to keep changing the list name, but you want your code to work all the time. So if you go by get by title, it's going to break because list title is going to be changing. They're going to change it. You don't know who is going to change. So in such cases, it's good to use get by ID by passing the GUID, and the rest is same. And here I have added one more field, that is content type ID. So let's say you wanted to add your item to a particular content type, then you can pass your content type ID, else by default it goes to the item. Okay. So the next example is people picker. So in REST API, this is the same concept as REST API. Still I'm repeating so that you are clear with it. So in the REST API, if your people picker accept only single user, okay, so we only pass the user ID of the particular user. But if it is accepting multiple user, we pass it as an array using the results array we will pass. Same thing here. If you see in my example, in the dot add, I'm adding the data. In the data, I'm saying that user ID is 9 for single user. It doesn't have to be an array, but it should be a number, not a string also. like in double quotes, if you pass 9 also, that's going to throw an error. It should be a number. But if it is a multiple, it is expecting multiple users, then you are supposed to send it like a result array. So this is how we send it. So this is also one straightforward example. Yeah. This is one interesting functionality of SPPNP. The same concept was there in Rest API also, but this I find it very easy to use. So yeah, in this example, uh, the entity type full name is required for this because it requires which entities it is adding. So here if you see, after getting the entity type full name, I'm creating a batch object using sp.web.create batch. So after creating the batch, in each request I'm passing the batch variable using in batch variable. Okay, in the add, I'm passing the entity type full name. This is same like the example we have seen in the jQuery. So this is required so that it knows in which list it is going. And after, you can have multiple objects. So you can put it in a for each loop of this one. And then after writing all this thing, in the last line, we just say batch.execute. So why we are going for batch operation? So let's say you have multiple transaction to do in your component. So instead of doing a web API call for each request, if you do a batch, it's gonna be executed once and it's gonna save all those calls, and your server is not going to be loaded with that many calls. So it becomes a less burden for the server, and from performance wise it's going to be good. That's why we are going for the batch operation. So in this example I used add method. So you can use update and delete as well. That will be shown. Yeah. So the next one is the update one. So by now you are well versed with this structure. sp.web.list get by title of your list title dot items. Here I'm taking the particular item ID because I'm updating it. So particular item ID I'm updating. So dot update is the method we're going to use. So in the dot update, just like what you passed in dot add, whatever is updated, that object or data we are going to pass it here. That's the only difference in this. So update is also straightforward. So far we have seen dot get, dot add, dot update, and then the next method is dot delete, but it will come in the next slide. Yeah, so now for the update item, batch update is little bit different because compared to the previous example, right? So here in the case of this example, dot add whatever your object, and then you passed your entity type full name, the entity type of the list. So here in this case, I have added one more parameter called star before the entity type. So that is because that is called as a e tag param that is required so that when multiple people are going to update it, because it's already a batch, even in the batch you can update the same item also, and even some other person also can use the batch request to update. So this is to help to prevent overwriting each other's request. So it's like a lock and wait system, you can say. So this is the same example like the add one. Yeah. Now the last one is the delete. Delete is easy. Which item you're going to delete? You're gonna get by ID and dot delete. So this is the method that's gonna delete it. And dot then returns a response from the server. Actually, these responses are helpful when you're writing your programming so that it is easy to know that your item is deleted. And then you can do the next operation. So in the example, we will see that. So we have seen 4 methods: dot get, dot add, dot update, dot delete. So dot add and update, you pass the data which needs to be added and updated, whereas rest of the method is directly calling them and doing the operation. So these are clear. Yeah. Okay. Now, before getting into this, Let me show the code. So in my component, this is an example I have created. So my root component is PnP examples. So in that I have added a header, and I'm calling this child component display order. This one I'll enable it after explaining this part. So in display orders, yeah, before getting into this, yeah. So in the display orders, what I'm doing is I'm displaying all the items from the orders list. So in the orders list, I have username. This is a lookup. Ordered product. This is a lookup. Date of purchase. It is a date type column. Status. It is a drop down, and ordered quantity is a number column. Okay. So yeah. So in this example, what I'm doing is I'm displaying everything using a list view component. I'll explain that. But if you see in this example, on top, first object I have imported is SP object from add PnP/SP. So to use web, again I have imported this. To use list and list, I have imported all these things. This is required for my REST call, which I'm doing here, sp.web. So I need the web object. Next is lists. So that also I'm doing. So for items, for that also I'm importing. So these are the selective imports, we call it in V2 version of the PnP. Because I'm not importing everything in the code. But if you see in the V1, in V1 we only import SP object. So when I say import SP from add PnP/SP, it's gonna import everything that is there inside the SP, like web, list, fields, everything that is under that, it's gonna be importing that. So because of that, the package used to be very heavy with the V1 version. And because now everybody has started using with Graph API, sorry, PnP library, they have they came up with this concept of selective import, so that whatever is required, only those imports we're gonna import in our code, and rest of the things are you don't need to import it. So now if you see with the V1 version, when you are importing everything, the library size was 201 KB, and with V2 import, if you are importing web and list object together, then it's going to be 74. But if you are only importing web, it's going to be 65 KB. So actually this is like directly in relation to the performance. If your package is heavy, then it's going to affect the performance also. So the V2 came up with the selective imports, and there is something called presets also. So you can create your own preset, or you can import the preset that are available, so that those particular set of imports you can use it. So preset is nothing but the set of imports you're going to use. So if I come up here, yeah. So here I have commented this line. So if you are using V1 and suddenly you upgraded your project to V2 PnP, then you can just use this single line to make sure that everything works. So what this line does is add PnP/SP presets/all. So you have preset/core. So like that, there are some things present. So you can import only the particular things. But when you say all, then you are importing everything. I have seen some people using this in their solution. But what I wanted to tell is that then they totally missed out the point of what is the purpose of V2. V2 came up because we don't want the heavy package and performance is going down. Because of that, it came up with this concept. But if you're saying all, then your package size is going to increase and it's going to decrease the performance. So I would suggest everyone to use it this way, like you selectively import to use it. But if you see, it's not looking nice. If you see from line 2 to 6, it's not looking nice to have this many inputs. So that's why they came up with creating your own presets also. So if you see, yeah. So here I have created a TS file, TypeScript file. And here these three things are required to get the items from list or anything to do with list. I need these three along with the SP. Okay, so here in this preset file, what I have used is I'm using this SP rest method, sorry, object to create the my own preset. So here I'm exporting my variable SP, and if you see in my other library, other component, in this component, if you see, I am not importing every statement. I'm only importing import SP from my file path. This is an easy way to create your own preset. If you are if you need some other library also, so if you see in my example, I have used site user / web, which is not present here, but you want to create your own preset for that also, including that you can create it. So in that way you have your own preset which you can use it to avoid this many import. So let's get back to our example. Yeah. So this example, what I have done is, I have used a React PnP React reusable component called list view. Yeah, let's get to the render method first. This is my render method. So in the render, if you see, I just have a header displaying all orders, and the next one is a button. This is a UI fabric component again, primary button, and the next one is the list view. So for the list view, I have imported the component from SPFx at PnP / SPFx control hyphen react. So from this library, I have imported this component list view. So to install this, you have to run npm install add PnP / SPFx hyphen control hyphen react. So that is the import installation step. And the package.json, you can see that, yeah, you can see that I have installed this as well as a property control, which I'm going to explain, and add PnP / SP. So these are the three things I have installed. Rest of the things are default ones. Okay, so now in this component, the first one is, let me explain how the component works. There are some state variables I have used in the component will mount. Um, yeah, see this example. So what happens is that when the component is mounting, I'm getting the data from the orders list, and I'm rendering the data in the list view component. And here we have some functionality for on select, so that we know which object is which row is selected. And we also have filter functionality, so I can search for a particular value also. So it's like yeah, so this is like your list view only, where you can search and do stuff, and you can do the search search operation for all the fields that are present here. So how this component works is, um, yeah, so in the component will mount, I'm getting the orders using the get all orders method. So here I'm passing the list title, and in the select, so username and audit product is a lookup field in my list, order list. So I'm expanding the field for the title property. So I'm taking the first 50 items, dot get, dot then, I got the item. So this item, I'm setting it to my state variable called all orders. So once I got the data, then the list view automatically sees if there is a data, then the render happens again. So in the items, I'm just passing my item that needs to be rendered in the list view. And the selection mode, I have kept it as multiple, and selection. So this props, what it does is, let's say I'm clicking a particular row. So for to get the selected item, they are passing this method, and in that method, the particular item is being passed. If you see the items is of any array, it's because I have enabled the multiple mode for the selection. and this prop show filter is equal to true. That's why the filter box is there, else it will be hidden. Yeah, now the last one I need to explain is view fields. So the list object returns multiple data, right? Even created by, modified by, created, those values are also returned. Yeah, view fields. Yeah, so if you see, I just got all the items, and in the select I set star. So basically it returns every column value in the list, because I said star here, and then whichever specific I need, that also I passed. But only the 5 columns is visible because I have passed the view fields. So in the view fields I have passed audit product username. So these 5 columns I have passed, but where I have passed is on the top. So here I have kept a const variable. Okay, the type is of view field. So this is again coming from this control only. They have given this interface. Yeah, so here yeah, when you get the JSON object back, so for the other items it is straightforward. In the name you pass the internal column, in the display name what is the display name of the particular column, so that will be coming. So if you see in the date of purchase, the internal column name is without space, and here, yeah, in the display name I had given space, and sorting is true, and max width equal to what is the width I needed. So sorting is a property. So let's say I need to sort on clicking of this. So for that I have used that property. So these are the properties that comes up with this interface which you need to pass. And for the first two, if you see, I have used audit product dot title. So this is how you access the JSON object, right? The particular key, and then the next what is the value you will use it, key dot value. The same way here also we are accessing the values using that method. Okay, so now you know how the render also happened. So in the get all item, get method is also clear. I know what is my list name and what I'm selecting. I'm expanding on the top 50 items. Okay, so here if you see in the component well mount, I have used another method called get user ID. Yeah, so in the get user ID, this I haven't used anywhere, but I kept it in a state variable if in case I wanted to use it using the current user ID object. Okay, so here sp.web.current user gives me the current user's value. So I'm using dot get to get the data. Yeah, so in the data you will get data dot username, data dot everything, but I need only the ID property, so I'm taking data dot ID and I'm passing it. So this is like helpful. Let's say I need to filter list value only for the current user. There are so many items in the list, but only the let's say created by column. I created it and I want to filter the items only I created. So in that case, you will say author ID, EQ, the current user ID. So in that case, you need the current user's ID, right? So that if you use context, the context variable returns only the email ID for the user. If you say this dot context dot page context dot user, then in that you get user email and other properties, but you don't get the user ID. So that's why this method is helpful when you are when you want to get the current user ID. Okay, so we have seen get all and get current user and add items. So in the UI, if you see, I have a button called place orders. So upon clicking, I have hard coded the value, and you can see here. Yeah. So sp.web.list get by title, my list name is order, and in the add I'm passing my data. So the title I kept it as title. These two are the lookup value which I passed, and date object I am passing the current date. Status I am saying that audit, and audit quantity is equal to 5. So whenever I'm clicking this button, the data is going back to the orders list. Okay, and once the data goes there, what I'm doing is you can either do a JSON. You can if you see, I have an items object, right? Sorry, here I have an object called all orders. So I have to just update all orders with the new object that I'm getting. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm again calling the get all orders. So get all orders again is gonna fetch the data from the list and gonna set it to this object. So render happens again with the updated value. So this is like a shortcut. I took it for a demo purpose. Yeah. So this is the first example we have seen. Now the second example is, let me comment this part. Yeah. Okay. So the next example is I'm gonna display the products. So here I have done little bit extra. Let me show in the UI. So if I go to the product list, so here I have the product. So in the product list, what are the columns I have? Title by default comes and product. So now this products is a manage metadata column, taxonomy column basically. So here I have a term set called products, and under which I have added some terms. So you can add the terms for that, and I have added this as a single selection. Quantities is again a number field. Yeah, so it's a simple one only. You have a product list, you are gonna tell how many product is available, and the product is a term. That's it. Now let's see the workbench. Yeah, till the workbench loads, I'll explain this. So the same like the previous example, in component will mount, I'm getting the products. So yeah, actually I use the any REST calls in component will mount so that the the web API call goes to the server before even the component renders. But actually component render happens in fraction of seconds, like even before that. But still I feel that it's good that it went before it. So that's why I use it in the component will mount. And mostly the calls, you should not write it like directly in your component file. You should keep like a service file where you are having all the data calls and the data that is coming back. So anyways, you know, the promise returns the object like items, the promise returns the value. So once you get the value, you can return it and use it in your component. That's the preferred method. But for this demo, I have added everything in the component itself. Yeah. So this example, instead of making it very complicated, I just made a simple table here. If you see edit title, product and quantities, I made a simple table and I'm just rendering the data. This is easy because if someone is seeing the React component for the first time, they should not get confused. So in the render, if you see H1 displaying all product, so that is this one, and I have added a table. This TR is the header one, and now the rows that are going to come dynamically from the list, I have using the map method, I'm returning it dynamically. Okay, so here what I'm doing is that I have created another TR inside this, so that each row that is going to come is going to be a row, and each object I'm returning in the TD. So if you see the data that is coming from the which is the list name product, yeah, so each row is rendered in a TR. Okay, so how that is done we will see. Yeah, the one thing I have added extra here is I have used a UI fabric component called icon button, and I have used the icon name edit, and on click of the edit I'm calling a method. Let's see what is the functionality it does. So here so each row is rendered, so upon clicking I'm opening a panel. So the panel has a child component called edit product. Okay, so edit product renders the data that I passed from this parent component to here. Okay, so here I click the pen drive item now. So it renders the pen drive item. So this is a text field. This is a text field, but it is a number text field. And the third one is a taxonomy picker. Again, this is a reusable React PnP control from the reusable library, which I have already installed. So means I already had the package. So I just had to use the import. So before going into that, let's see how the component works. So yeah, now you've seen till here, the table is rendered. You know how the table is also rendered. So now I have initialized certain state object like what is all items is open. So is open boolean I kept it to know whether the panel is open or closed. And selected item. Selected item I wanted so that which row I clicked, I wanted to know. That item I wanted to pass it to my child component. So in the icon, in the edit icon, when I'm clicking, I'm calling a method called on edit click. So on edit click, what I'm doing is I'm just opening the panel by setting the state object is open equal to true, and I'm passing the current item also. So here if you see the item object, I'm passing it. Each row gives me this, this is like a for each object only map. So the item object, I'm passing it here. So using that, I'm getting the selected item. Yeah. Now this panel component, this is again UI fabric component. I'm sorry, now it is changed to Fluent UI. It's no more called as UI fabric. Yeah. So in the panel, we have this props called is open. So if it is open, then it is true. If it is not open, it is false. So using the state object, I'm opening it and closing it. On dismiss. So on dismiss is like the cross icon comes, or if you are closing it by manually or something. So in that case, how you wanted to dismiss it, and on dismiss what you want to do. So in my case, on dismiss, I just want to set the state object is opens equal to false, and whatever the selected object, selected item object, I'm clearing it. So this one I'll explain why I'm using it. Yeah. So now inside these two panel tag, I am passing my child component. My child component is edit product. Correct. So in the edit product, I am expecting three props, that is item, current item, and context. I need context to pass it to the taxonomy picker, and update parent. So here I pass function as a prop. So this dot dismiss is a function. You can see that here. I am passing this because whenever the panel is getting closed after saving or after deleting, then I need to close the panel. So for that I need this. I need to pass that as a props to the child. Yeah. Now here in the edit prop, I already know what is the item. So using the item.id, we can get the particular ID that is being passed. So here in the taxonomy picker, I'm setting the initial value. So if you see, this is my taxonomy picker. Because I'm setting the initial values, I need to pass the terms. So SharePoint did not return me the label and everything. Label was there, meta item term GUID was there, and WSS ID was there. But the taxonomy picker requires a term in a interface called iPicker terms. So that requires these fields: name, key, path, and term set. So to get that, what I did is that I hit the taxonomy hidden list, and from there I'm getting these four object fields that I require, and based on the current taxonomy term value, I'm filtering it and I'm setting the value for the particular term, and that will automatically render the value in the taxonomy picker. That's how this value is set. But here if you see, I have added a ternary operator. this dot state dot term means initial value is null. If you see on the constructor, I kept it as null. So I don't want it to render when it is null, because that is gonna throw an error in the taxonomy picker that it is not able to render with the null value. So I only put the condition, if it is null, then don't render it. Only when it is not null, render it. So the rest of the fields, if you see, it's a text field like I showed in the UI. These two, title and the quantity, are the text field, whereas the quantity is only number because I passed this type as number. That's the only change. And two buttons we have. Again, I have used this action button from the UI fabric component. Yeah, so now let's see the functionality, how PnP.js comes into the picture. So yeah, so in the save item, when the user clicks the save item button, this method is called, that is called save item. So here in the save item, what I'm doing, I know my list name, get by title of product, dot items dot get by id. Which item I'm going to update, that also I know because I already passed the item prop to this component. So whenever I'm editing it, so let me show in the console. Yeah, let's open our edit product.tsx. Yeah, now whenever the, okay, I am keeping a debugger in the constructor. Now when I'm clicking, this component is being called, and the first method that is going to be called is obviously constructor. So here you can see the props. This dot, now let me keep the debugger inside after the super is initialized. Yeah, so if you see this dot props dot items, sorry, item, you can see this is the value I passed. This is actually the value that is returned by the list, because we did get all object, right? So in that, whatever I got, I directly gave it to the child. So in this, you can see all the values that is written from SharePoint. So in that, I'm just using ID value to say update the item again. And products, if you see, this is what I mentioned, that product return the label, and label is 3. I didn't get the actual label. So the actual label should be somewhat like washing machine pen drive. But that keyword I didn't get it. So that's why I had to do another REST call to the hidden list, and I'm getting the label as well as the term set ID also. So that is also required to save back. Yeah. So now you know how it is returning the object. So here we already have this dot props dot item as the ID. So using that, we are getting the particular item ID, and then we are updating it using the dot update method. And here for the taxonomy field, we have to pass this because it is a special column, you can say. Yeah. And this is how we update a single field taxonomy. No, if a taxonomy field expects only one value, then you will pass it like this. If it expects multiple value, then you pass it like a string using a special format like -1 hash, then the label value, and then again the WSS ID. So that's how you're gonna pass it. I have read a good article by Nandadeep. He has posted in C# Corner for an article how to update the taxonomy picker for multiple picker also, for a single also. Okay, so in my case, I'm using the single one, and the quantity field, I'm passing the quantity value. Yeah, and this is all from my state object. So I don't have to pass anything specifically. Directly, I'm sending everything so that I don't have to figure out which is the object that is sent. So once that is updated, I'm just calling this dot props dot update parent. So what happens? Update parent is a function, correct? And here in the display product, we send that function, that is on dismiss. This is where this arrow method comes in very handy. In the last example also Siddharth mentioned this, that we are using the arrow method to bind the particular method to the component. If you don't bind it, when you're calling this method from your child, it's gonna tell that it's undefined. It doesn't know that. Or it will say that this is undefined. This keyword which you're using here, it will say that it is gonna be undefined. That's why we need to use arrow method or any other binding method that he has recommended in the previous example. Okay, so you know the example already, so we are just updating the item, and then after updating the item I'm clicking on save. Item goes to the list. Once it goes to the list, I'm closing this panel by calling the on dismiss function. So let's see here, I'm clicking on save, and then you can say that the quantity is already updated and my UI is also refreshed. And this is that easy. And even for taxonomy picker also the same way. The taxonomy picker gives all the terms inside the term set. So let's see something. Watch I haven't used, so I say watch, and then here in the title also let me change. I say save. Yeah, now it is changed to watch. Okay, and the delete method. Now in the panel you had seen this. I have a delete button also. Delete button is another straightforward one. By now you would have guessed it. Funny thing is you're gonna say dot delete. sp.web.list get by title dot items get by id, which item I'm going to delete, that I'm passing it, and dot delete. That's it. It will be deleted. So post delete, what I'm doing is I'm just updating my parent because that item is no more present. So let's say groceries we are deleting now. It is deleted and removed from my UI also. Not only from UI, also from the list. Yeah, this is the list, right? Yeah, I'm displaying products. Yeah, it is deleted from the list as well. So this is how we do the CRUD operation using the uh, SPPNP. One thing which I needed to mention here is you need to pass the context for the SP object. So this code you need it in your component because you need to pass the context for the SP object to initialize it. What is the context of the web? If you don't pass it, it will work well in Workbench. There is no problem. You will see your web part is working very well. But if you don't pass it, when you do the package and deploy it, you will open a SharePoint page, right? It will have the let's say that home page. Okay, home page is like this slash site pages slash home.aspx, right? So it takes the context till site pages because it doesn't know what is the context, what is the site. SP is actually referring to the site, so it doesn't know which site it is doing it. It knows till there, but it takes till site pages. So we need to pass this to avoid such kind of stuff. And also in all this example I have used sp.sp.sp. right? sp.web, sp.web.list, but this sp dot is referring to the current site. So if my list is present in this site, then I'm using sp dot. But let's say your list is present in another site. So in that case, you will be initializing your web object, like let webs equal to web of the web URL. So the web URL is this, your spo2.sharepoint.com/sites slash what is your site name. So till there you will have to pass, and then you got your web object. So using the web, now you will be using web.list. In that case, you will not say sp.web. You will directly start with web. So this is how you work with multiple sites as well. Okay. So next, let me go to the slide. Demo we are done. Yeah. This is another interesting one. Accessing file data using PnP. So those who have worked with jQuery to get the file data, this is the same one we use in REST API also. Get files by server relative URL. So you pass the server relative URL as a parameter, and then you can get the data either by blob or buffer or JSON. Get JSON if in case the file type is JSON. So in the third example, if you see, the file is file.json. So you can get the JSON directly, and the last one is .text because it is a text file. So if it is any other file, then you can go with get buffer and get blob method. Okay. In the last one, let's say you don't know the complete path. You know, inside the document, inside the document library, you have a file called file.tsx. So that way also you can get it. So you can access it however you want with the data you already have. So this is how you access the data of the file. Yeah. Now adding attachment. Every list has this attachment. If you haven't seen in my library, see, you will have a attachment field. Okay, when you say add attachment, you can attach single file or multiple file also. Okay, so how to add attachment for a list through add PnP. So the first line, if you see, I have imported add PnP/sp/attachment for the selective import. So you already know how to get an item. So sp.web.list get by title. What is your list? In that, what item you're going to take it. So in my case, I'm getting the first item. Get ID 1 and item dot attachment file. You're going to add the attachment to the particular. Okay. So that's why we are saying item dot add attachment files. For that only we imported that first line and say dot add. So dot add of here just a text file. I'm directly passing the file name, and dot once it is added, it's gonna return a promise. So the second example what I had is I'm adding a multiple objects. So for multiple object, I'm just creating an array and putting these text files, and then instead of add, you can see that I have called this method called dot add multiple. So add multiple is gonna add the multiple attachment. Deleting an attachment. So in deleting an attachment, the only parameter that is changing is dot delete multiple. Okay, so you can delete multiple attachment in one go only. Same import statement, same like the add one. Instead of add, you're gonna say delete attachment. Yeah. So now we are coming to the end. So for the selective imports, you might have a question like, how do I know what is the selective import that I need to use? So even in the beginning, even I was not clear how to go about, even though I know the SharePoint structure. Copy this. Yeah, so I refer this documentation which was given by PnP community. So here if you come, you can see all the examples and all the packages that are present inside the SP. So I haven't covered everything because it has like so many, it cannot be covered in 1.5 hours. So if you go through all all these examples, you will get to know that, but basic crude operation I have covered it little bit extra. Yeah, so here if you come to the documentation, you can see that to get a particular web, then you just have to import only the web object. Basically when you say import SP, it is an empty object, in that nothing is there. That's how the current selective import is created. You have to tell what you wanted inside that SP. So rest of the import is actually gonna tell that what is required. So here in this add PnP/sp/web, we have imported the web object. So I'm just getting the current web title using this example. So this is how we relate the selective import. So even if you have any question, always refer to the document. So this is the link for the document, and you can check it like if you want to check for files, so which we have seen now, right? For the files, these are the imports. So add pnp/web, yes, you need the web object, and for files you need only this one, and if you are accessing folders, then we need the folder import. So it's an easy way to find out what are the imports you require. Some people, if they don't know, then they use preset all, but to avoid, please check the documentation and import what is required. Yeah. Last but not least, we have reusable PnP controls. So we have two reusable kind of control. One is the let me open the link. Yeah, the first one is the reusable React controls. These are given by the PnP community. Yeah, to install this, this is the steps: npm install at pnp/spfx-control-react. So you will just execute that in your command prompt, and if you want to update the string files, you will use that, but by default this gets updated whenever you use the component. So these are the multiple components they have provided. You can use all these components as per your requirement. So in the example I have given, I use this list view, and then one more I have used taxonomy picker. So these two I have used in the example so that you will know how to use that. So here they had given what are the imports you have to give and how you're gonna use the component. So these documentations are very, very clear. There is nothing confusing. It is very straightforward also. So even for when they say dot get selection, that method also they have defined to tell this is how this method is also gonna return the value. So you can use it the way you wanted it. And the next one, if you see in the taxonomy picker, which I have used in the second component, yeah, they have given the screenshot to show how it will actually look. Yeah, in the taxonomy picker, this is the import statement, and this is going to be the control. And upon changing, like if you are picking any terms, then that time you will use this object on taxonomy picker. So that also they have mentioned it here. On change, what is the terms that's gonna be returned, means what you selected, that is gonna come here. Okay, so the last one is reusable property pane controls. So this I haven't explained. So in my property pane, I have used two controls just to show an example. So the first one is a list selection control, you can say. So it in my so currently I pass the SP context, right? So it takes all the list present in this site. So in the PnP demo, whatever the list and libraries present, that I'm seeing in the drop down. And the PnP, the property field picker is basically a people picker field. Yeah, just like how you use people picker in your list on libraries, the same way here this component is there. So how I used it in my code is in the webpart.ts file. I have added the import statement which I read it from the document, because these are the components actually. And I have initialized two props value. One is list and the second one is people. So these are the things that's gonna hold the value. So here if you see property field list picker. So and I'm saying saving the value in the props list. So that is what I'm passing it here. That's it. The second example, and the rest is whatever I have taken it from the example, I have used it. And the next one is the property field people picker. For people picker, I'm using the people props. So in that I'm storing the values, and the initial data is this one. Okay. And the principal type, if you know people picker, you can use users, SharePoint, security group, and there is one more. Okay, not maybe, but I remember there was 4 things. Okay, so on property pane change, it is gonna set the value. So if you see in the example, I haven't used this anywhere, but I can obviously show the example by debugging. Yeah, let me change the list from customer to order. Okay, so now the property pane values change. So component did receive props method. That's why the render method is being called here. So if I this props dot this one returns the GUID of the list. I've selected the list order, but it returns the GUID. So using the GUID, now you can get the data. By now you would be familiar how it is. Instead of using get by title, you would say get by ID. And the second field that we have used is people picker, right? So that value, if you seen, I already have set the value Harsha Vardhini, so that should be present. People is the property. So now if you see, it returned an object with my email ID, full name, and all those things. So you can use this actually like a target audience. So if you want to pass target audience to your component, then use this in the property pane. You either can select a group or you can select multiple users and say that for this user only your web part will be visible. So based on conditional rendering, if the current logged in user is equal to present inside this props value, then you show the component, else say that you don't have access. So why did I come here is because I wanted to explain this reusable property pane control for SharePoint Framework solution. So these two components I have taken it from here, and there are so many cool examples present here. I really like these things. The one which we have used is this one, property field people picker. So if you see in the example, they have given the screenshot and they also told what is the import statement and what is the props. So they have a particular interface for this prop. So they also said how to import that particular interface and use it for your props, and finally the field that you're gonna render in the property pane. Simple and straightforward. And if you can see on the side, multiple things, property field, code editor, color picker. So these are like some cool things which already present. So you can directly reuse it using the @PnP/SPFx property control. So again, to get started, you just have to do one installation only. This is the installation statement you have to run in your command prompt. In my package, it is present. Where is it? Yeah, here. @PnP/SPFx-property-controls. The above one React one is for the components, not for the property pane controls. So you can use all the reusable components from here. Because this is a getting started session, I'm not covering up everything, but you can always go to the document and see how to get started with. Yes. So finally we are coming to the last slide. Thank you for attending the session. The next session is on 29th April by Jenkins, and the session is for consuming Graph API in SPFx. Nadadeep?